Owen David. When I first saw him, the first thing I noticed was his cute little nose, and I was actually kind of shocked with how much hair he had and just his tiny little fingers and, every little feature. When a baby's that small, like 2 pounds, it's just amazing how they just a little bit like they're a human and they're just so tiny, but I can just remember all of his features on his face and his lips and nose and eyes, and they were just perfect.
Welcome to Still a Part of Us, a place where moms and dads share the story of their child who was stillborn or who died in infancy. I'm Winter.
And I'm Lee. We are grateful you joined us today. Please note that this is a story of loss and has triggers.
Thanks to our lost parents who are willing to be vulnerable and share their children with us.
If you're listening to this podcast, just know that on our YouTube channel there are pictures and videos that are related to the stories that are being shared.
Subscribe and share it with a friend that might need it, and tell them to subscribe. Why? Because people need to know that even though our babies are no longer with us, they're still a part of us. Lorianne, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today. I'm just so glad that you reached out and are willing to come in and tell your story today. So welcome to the podcast.
Yes, thank you.
And can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do on a daily basis? Who's in your family right now?
Okay, so my husband and I met online, actually, on a dating website, and things progressed pretty quickly, which we were a little nervous about at first, but it ended up working out. And after a couple of months, we moved in together, and we've been together ever since, and that's been 8 years now. It's just my husband, and we have two dogs, which are pretty much basically our kids. They're our lives. I don't know what I would do without them, actually. Like, they keep us going, really. We live in the country life, kind of, so it's very secluded, and we definitely really like that lifestyle, and we enjoy being outdoors and hiking and doing all those fun things. And for work, I am an ABA therapist. So I work with kids between the ages of 2 and 5. And we work on preparing them to to go to school.
Awesome.
And the kids have autism. So it's a very challenging but fun and rewarding job.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And of course, you're doing a lot of this right online at this current time, or are you meeting people in person?
We are actually I go to an in center. Some ABA therapists go in home.
Mm-hmm.
Um when COVID first happened, well, Owen was actually born on March 10th of 2020. And 2 days after he was born was when they, shut down, pretty
Everything.
much, the world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, my job had shut down, for a couple of months, but I was on maternity leave, already at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't really affected by that because I was already out.
Mm-hmm.
But then my job is considered medically necessary because autism is a medical diagnosis. So they went back to work pretty quickly. And I mean, I didn't go back to work pretty quickly.
And we'll get into that a little bit more. So
Yeah, we can get but we are in person, and I work in a center, and there's just three of us, so three adults and three kids and then our boss.
yeah,
And so yeah, we are in person.
great.
And yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I could go in home, but I definitely prefer center.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And what part of the country are you located? You can just give me generalities.
Okay, yeah. Well, we're from New Jersey.
Okay.
Hmm.
So back east there.
Yeah.
Now, and any it sounds like you and your husband like to do outdoor things. You have dogs and everything. Any other hobbies that you guys like to do by yourself or you're together?
We love watching different movies. Uh, it used to be Netflix a lot, but Netflix, I don't know. They're kind of being a little weird now. So, wherever we can get some good movies,
Yeah.
definitely hiking with the dogs. Family means a lot to me, so we actually spend a lot of time with our families.
And are they both sides of the family nearby?
Matt's mom is about a half hour away from us, and then my parents are an hour away from us.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but I mean,
So
I drive an hour to work every day.
yeah, I
Like,
was like, that's probably nothing for you.
yeah, that's normal.
Yeah. Well, great. Okay, and then you did mention that Owen was born in March of 2020, and
Hmm.
so it's at the time of this recording, it's been about a year since he was
Hmm.
born. Tell me, were you guys planning on getting pregnant? How did the pregnancy go? Was that something that you guys were hoping to have happen?
Yes. In 2015, we actually got pregnant on our own, and we were never not trying.
Yeah.
um, so we found out we were pregnant, and our wedding was actually in 9 months. So like our baby would have been due like almost a couple of days before our wedding date.
Really?
Yes. So that was a little bit of like a shock, and you know, we moved things around and we moved the wedding up and we did all these things, but then we ended up miscarrying at 8
Oh,
weeks.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Um I mean, we never found out really why or what happened or anything like that. I really feel like at that stage of our life, I had no idea anything like about pregnancy,
Mhm.
like how difficult it would be to get pregnant, or honestly, how being able to get pregnant and carry a child is like a miracle to me, really. Like, I know like it happens all the time, and I don't know. It's just not as easy as I feel like some people make it seem. At least for us, that was.
Yeah, I
So
completely agree with you on that. It is a
y-
miracle when babies get here safely.
yeah, it really is. And I feel like when we had our loss, that was very hard for us. Like, we kept our wedding like moved up because we kind of needed like something positive. So we decided instead of doing the April wedding, like we moved our wedding to November,
Mhm.
and we kept it there. And I'm glad we did because, we just got married faster, and then it was fun, and we saw all our family and everything like that. So that happened.
So,
And then,
Lorianne, can I ask you a question? Did
yeah,
people know that you guys were pregnant, or did you kind of hold on to that for just a little bit and just started rearranging your wedding date?
well, because of, like, the timing that it happened,
Mhm.
I found out pretty early. Like, when I went to my OB, I was 4 weeks when I found out I was pregnant the first time, and that's when I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, we're gonna have to tell people
Mm.
because we're gonna have to move the wedding." Like,
Okay.
we can't,
Yeah, this is
because
not
we
going to
had
work out.
already booked the place.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
we had already, had our date and everything, and so it never really crossed my mind that, like, something would go wrong. again, where that's like where I feel like we just really had no idea. Like,
Yeah.
like you think you get pregnant and it's like, oh, we're going to have a baby.
Yeah.
Like,
Everything's going to be fine. Yeah.
yeah. So we did tell our family because we had to move our wedding up. So everybody already knew why we had to like move the dates.
Okay.
So yes, everybody knew. And then everybody knew obviously that we had lost the baby. So yeah, everybody, I mean, I'm pretty open with my family, so they pretty much know like everything. So
Did
yeah,
you
they
did you
knew.
did you feel like they were supportive at that time when you guys had your first loss?
Well, it's kind of funny when we we were on vacation with my family when we told them, and I can remember like my dad kind of got a little mad. I don't think that he was like mad, but I think he was like, why couldn't you guys just wait till you were married? Like type of thing.
Oh.
And he got over that within like 20 minutes, and then he was like, I'm gonna be a grandpa, and like then he was happy.
Yeah.
And my mom was ecstatic, my brother and my sister were ecstatic. Everybody was very happy for us.
Mhm.
I feel like that loss I heard a lot. Oh, it happens to a lot of women, or oh, it happens in the early stages, or like things that people normally say that think that they're trying to help. And uh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody was very supportive and understanding, and my mom actually bought us like little angel wings.
Mhm.
And on our wedding day, like I had my angel wings like tucked in like my wedding dress,
Uh-huh.
and then Matt had like his angel wings like tucked in like his suit pocket.
Nice.
So that was like our little remembrance for our baby that we lost.
Yeah.
After that though, we were like, let's just try again.
Okay. So you guys were just like, let's do it. Let's
Yeah, we're like, we know we want to have a kid. Let's try again. We tried for a year, nothing happened. Like I always kind of like had issues, and
Mhm.
it just wasn't happening. And after a year or two, we were like, okay, maybe we should, talk to the doctor and see like if something's wrong. Like I don't think it should take 2 years for us to get pregnant again.
Yeah.
So I went to my OB, and then we ran like the regular tests and everything, and they Matt had to have a test done, and we found out that we both have issues.
Okay.
So with both the issues that we had, we were like batting like 1% chance of us getting pregnant on our own.
Okay.
And they said that it was shocking that we did get pregnant on our own the first time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we then were referred to, like a fertility doctor.
Mhm.
So we started seeing the fertility doctor, and they decided, well, no, my insurance decided, because you know how that
Yeah.
goes.
Mhm.
Insurance decided that we would have to do like 3 rounds of insemination. And then if that didn't work, then we could go to IVF.
Okay.
And my doctors were thinking that IVF was going to be our best shot, and that like insemination wouldn't be our best shot. But we had to do the 3 rounds before insurance would cover the IVF
I see.
part. So I have always been very open about our journey starting at that point, because, by then it's like we're married for a couple of years. people are always like, where's the baby?
Yeah.
Like, when are you gonna have a baby? Like, what are you waiting for? And I would get so angry almost. Like, I wouldn't know what to say sometimes. I would just be like, it's not always easy. Like, we're struggling, okay? Like, it's not like we're trying.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it is.
So
You always feel a little like, gosh, you are probing into our into our reproductive life really a lot by asking that question.
yeah, and it's not even that. It's just, I don't know. Again, I feel like I've learned going through this journey that it's not necessarily the best question to ask couples. I feel like sometimes,
Yes.
especially to just blurt out like, "What are you doing? Like, why aren't you having kids?" Like,
Yep.
but I get it. People want to know, and it's fine. But I was like, I'm done. I'm not gonna pretend that everything's okay. Like, I don't want to have to be ashamed of myself because of like not being able to be pregnant yet. Like, I want people to understand that it's not always going to be, let's do it and then we're going to get pregnant. So that's when I started to be pretty open on social media about our journey, and I started sharing our journey with like all of our friends and family online, and I pretty much shared every step of the way, like with each insemination that we went through. The first one, it didn't work. Then we just went right into our second one. That one didn't work. The doctors were not optimistic, I guess, about the third one working. So when we did our third one, I was like, okay, then after this, we can move to IVF. I was like, so let's get started now. So then, because you always have that 2-week wait. Like, you have the insemination, and then you have to wait 2 weeks to find out that it's negative or positive, and then
You can
move
start all the medications and everything.
yeah, but I wanted to like be prepared like for right after that. So that whole 2-week time, I was sad to say, I wasn't really optimistic about it. I was more focused on IVF. Like, they gave us all the paperwork. I had already picked up some of the meds. I was already like had my schedule with the doctors. And then I can remember like 3 days before or something like that, before I had my beta day, like where they check your hormone levels.
Mm-hmm.
I like didn't feel right. Like, I kept having like, like this weird like twinge in my stomach, or like, I don't know, signs that could be your period or it could be you're pregnant,
Yeah.
because they're all the same signs.
Right.
And then I ended up taking a test, and it had 2 lines, and like I was like, this can't be real. Like,
Wait a second.
I like went up to Matt, and I was like, I like smacked him. I was like, do you see this? It has 2 lines. And then he's like, okay, so this is good. And I'm like, do you see this? Like, like it was like a complete like shock moment.
Right.
Like, of it's faulty. Give me another one. Like, I literally took like 3. Like,
You're like, I gotta make sure.
Exactly. So I actually like called the doctor, and I'm like, I know you tell us not to take it early, but I took the test. And she's like, okay, well, let's just wait, like 2 days. You have your blood work test, like whatever. So 2 days. All right. So I took 20 more pregnancy tests in between then.
Of course, you have to.
Obviously. I mean, how do you not?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and the line did get darker, every day, after that. So we did go in for my blood work, and then when you have your blood work done, the fertility clinic has until 7 p.m. to call you back, right? Like you get your blood work drawn at 6 a.m. and they literally have till 7 p.m. to call you back with the results. So we're sitting at home, it's 1 o'clock comes, 3 o'clock comes. I'm like, don't you think this is something that they would want to call us and tell us now? Why
Any
are they
day
making
now.
us wait?
Yeah.
So finally we got the call, and the nurse that we spoke to was like, congratulations, you're pregnant. And I was like, what? And she's like, you're pregnant. And I was like,
You're still in shock about it.
yeah. And I was like, okay, thanks. And she's like, well, congratulations. And I'm like, okay, thanks. And then we hung up, and Matt's of course standing there looking at me, and I can just remember I was frozen. I was like, we're pregnant. And he's like, well, why do you look like that? And I'm like, I mean, this is what we've wanted all along, but now what do we do? It had taken so long to get that pregnant positive, and I was like, I didn't prepare for when it actually did happen.
I know, isn't that funny?
What?
Yeah, it's like, now what?
So it did take me a few minutes to soak it in.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, well, are you gonna call your mom and dad? And I was like, yeah. So I called my mom and dad, and they were waiting for me to call them. They knew we were getting the results.
Okay.
So when my mom picked up, I actually started crying. To the point where I couldn't talk, crying. And later my mom told me, she's like, I literally was thinking in my head, how am I going to comfort her? She thought I was crying because I had bad news.
Oh.
But yeah, so I was like, we're pregnant. And she's like, oh my God. And then my dad's in the background, yay. They were screaming, they were so excited. Both of my parents are, they're just so amazing, and they're going to be the best grandparents in the entire world, and they are just so excited to, be grandparents.
Yeah.
So I was super excited, and then I was like, okay, chill out, everybody. It's early. Because then it's I have in my head, we had a early miscarriage, the last time.
Right.
So, of course, that fear, kind of took over.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, we were excited at the same time. This is what we've been waiting for. Doesn't matter that we have IVF meds in the fridge that we spent money on, that we
A lot
were
of money.
yes, that we were going to need, but now don't. But that's okay because we're pregnant. But, when you see a fertility doctor, they see you until 8 or 9 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they see you very regularly. So when you first find out that you're pregnant, it's super early. They make you wait a week or two, I forget, before your first ultrasound. And then that first ultrasound is really, they just want to start to see the sac growing.
Right.
And then the next one after that would be the heartbeat. And then the one after that is you graduate.
Mm-hmm.
So the first time we went, my doctor wasn't too pleased. Like, she said that they should be able to see, like the fetal pole or
Mhm.
whatever starting to grow. And she wasn't sure if it was going to make it. So that was very, very hard to hear.
Yeah.
And it's just, you think the 2-week wait is hard, but I felt like it was even harder to wait for that time when you get to hear the heartbeat for the first time.
Right.
And sometimes I think it's they check you too often with fertility doctors, because a normal person wouldn't really go see the OB until what? I don't even know, 8, 9 weeks, you
Yeah,
know what I
it's a
mean?
bit
They tell
later.
you, yeah, don't they tell you to wait
Mhm.
a
They
little
do.
bit? Yeah. So, um, I can remember we did finally get to hear the heartbeat, and we both cried during that ultrasound, including Matt. um, so that was a good positive step. And then I can remember the day we were supposed to go to graduate, like they call you, graduating to
Right.
go to your OB. I had woken up and I had some bleeding,
Mhm.
and I was and it was at 8 weeks. I woke up, we were supposed to be going to the fertility doctor to graduate, and I woke up and that was happening, and I literally just I was like, "It's done. It's over." I was so that hour drive to the fertility doctor, I just bawled my eyes out,
Yeah.
so scared,
So was it quite a bit of bleeding, or was it spotty,
yeah,
or
it was no, it was a decent amount, and that's
Oh,
why I was like, "This is it." You know what I mean?
yep.
That was just, my first thought, 8 weeks, this is when we lost, our first baby, this is just, how it is. And I can remember going to a fertility clinic, the vibe is very somber and very heavy, when you go to, a place like that. And I was just sitting in the waiting room, crying. There was no holding it back anymore. It was very, hard to wait the 20 minutes or whatever they made me wait before I could go in to see the doctor. But we got in there, the doctor asked me, "What's going on?" I told her, and through tears, by the way, I'm still crying. And so they're like, "All right, let's take a look, let's see what's going on." So they, do the ultrasound, and then all of a sudden, I can just remember, first thing they do is check for the heartbeat, and loud, she turned it up really loud, and he had a strong heartbeat. It was just, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
To be able to finally be
He's still there.
he's still there. I mean, we didn't know it was a he yet, but I was like, the baby is still there. And they're so tiny at that stage that I think, and even in one of the pictures, they look like little gummy bears, kind of at that stage.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite pictures, ultrasound pictures, because he literally looks like a gummy bear. And even at that little stage, he was wiggling around, and it was just so special.
Yeah,
I
that
was
was the
so glad
best.
that like I had that, got to see, um, especially so early on. And I'm like, is the baby moving? She's like, yeah, like he's like dancing around right now. Like
That's
I'm
so
like
awesome.
I'm like, that's inside me. And she's like, yes, like it's like, how is that possible? Like
Oh, that's so
but
great.
it's just so
Was
I guess I had like I don't know what it's called, like a
like a
clot.
hemorrhage, a clot or something? Okay.
Yeah. And they saw it in the ultrasound,
Okay.
and they said it was small and that it should resolve on its own.
Okay.
Um, which it did. I only like bled for like another day, and then I was okay after that. I
Okay.
didn't bleed anymore. So I felt much better
Yeah. Was
after
Matt
that.
at that appointment with you?
Yes,
Okay.
he was.
I'm
He
sure he was
cried.
relieved too.
Yes, he was crying.
Yeah, okay.
Um, I feel like every ultrasound has been very hard, because when we found out that we had the miscarriage, we went to the hospital to get blood work or the ultrasound done, and the techs can't tell you anything, right? Like,
Yep, they're not supposed to.
no, they're not supposed to. So this tech turned what like we had the screen facing us, and I had heard the heartbeat the week before, but Matt didn't. This is for the first baby. And all of a sudden the text kind of turned the screen, right? Like we can't really see anything anymore now on the screen. And Matt just remembers her writing like NFR, like he Googled it and it's like no fetal or whatever the saying was. It's no fetal heart rate or whatever was what the term was. But he saw her type that in, but she couldn't tell us that, like,
Yeah.
that happened. So ultrasounds now just petrify him, because he like that's like what he remembers. So he every ultrasound he literally would hold his breath, and then I can like every time, as soon as like we could hear the sound, he'd be like like visibly and very loudly like let out like
Yes.
a huge
Huge
breath, like
sigh of relief, right?
yes. So yeah, so we graduated that day. They let us go to our OBGYN. So then our 12-week appointment, everything was fine. They were telling us we had to wait until 20 weeks to find out the gender, but I, of course, was too impatient to do that. So I did like a private scan or whatever for the gender reveal. Um, and that was really special because, you're with them for like an hour, and they do like the 3D photos. They have just all the video. I mean, we even got like his heartbeat put, like, I'm obsessed with turtles. And like we got like his heartbeat put into like a stuffed animal, like turtle. It was amazing because, again, like you see like this little body, like, moving around, and I couldn't really feel him yet at that point. But that is when we found out that he was a boy. And
How early was that?
16 weeks.
16. Okay.
Yeah, because they won't, at least this place wouldn't see us until we were 16 weeks to do like the gender reveal
Okay.
part of it. Yeah. So we found out like my husband and I found out he was a boy. And then I was like, all right, we got to surprise my parents. So I didn't tell my parents when we were going to find out the gender. And my brother's girlfriend at the time, like, I told her, and she, like, got, the piñata and, like, filled it all with, like, blue stuff and, confetti and everything, and then it was actually on New Year's Eve that we got to like, we had my parents, hit the piñata, and my
Mhm.
brother and my sister were there to, find out the gender, and, like, my dad broke it, and, like, all the blue fell out, and, like, he just was like, "It's a boy, like, I'm gonna have a grandson," and, like, he was, like, so oh my dad was so thrilled, and then so was my mom, and for the rest of the night, I'm not even kidding you, like, all I heard all night, my dad just kept rewatching the video,
Oh,
and it was so sweet, though. I'm like, "Really, Dad? Like, again?" He's like, "This is my grandson. Like, this is like, this is my grandson. Don't you touch that food or don't you eat that." Like,
that is so sweet.
I know. Yeah. He was super excited. And I had always known if I had a boy, like, I just always knew Owen was going to be like his name. Matt didn't really have a choice in that sense.
Sorry, Matt.
Yeah. Sorry, but Owen has just I don't know why. I just always loved that name.
Mhm.
So I was like, obviously it's his name's gonna be Owen. So also like Matt and I had talked before that we were going to ask my dad if it would be okay if we used his name like as his middle name. And I asked him and he his eyes like filled like with tears because he was so honored like that we would want to like
Yeah.
have our son's middle name be David. So he just kept saying, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like, why would we wouldn't be asking you if we weren't sure." Like
Oh, that's so sweet.
So, of course, he was, like, beyond thrilled, like, about that. Um, I I really had I don't think I had a difficult pregnancy, really. I mean, I was sick for maybe about a week, but that was pretty much it. I feel like I had the weirdest craving. It was ice water.
Oh,
Like, yeah,
it just
like
sounded good.
it just it had to be extremely cold ice water.
I've never heard
It
that
c
one before, honestly.
I well, because like, I kept, like, making a big deal about it, and, like, I bought all these, like, ice cube trays, and Matt became, like, a pro at, like, filling these ice cube trays and, like, having them all set and ready because I would drink so much of it that,
Yeah.
like, he figured out a system to always make sure I had enough ice in the freezer, like, so I would never run out.
It's a good husband right there.
Oh, yes, he definitely was. But, because I said to my husband, I'm like, "I'm not craving food, like, I don't have, like, a food craving." He goes, "You're craving ice water. You don't know how many times a day you ask for ice water? Like, that seems to be your craving." Like,
Oh, that's funny. You didn't even notice it.
I did well, because I thought it would be, like, food
Yeah,
or
yeah, exactly.
something. But but, yeah, so I feel like I started to feel, like, some movement around, like, 17, 18 weeks, it's so little at that point where
Right.
it's like and I like never made it that far into pregnancy.
Yeah. So you
So
weren't sure what it's supposed to be like.
yeah, I'm like, is that gas or is that like I don't know, maybe. I'm just gonna go with yeah, it was him.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
But so then we had our anatomy scan,
Mm-hmm.
which is at 20 weeks, and we had the same tech as we had for like our 12-week scan. And she was great because she like walked us through everything, like as she was doing everything. And I liked that.
Yeah, I love that too.
Yeah. And everything was perfect. Like he was measuring perfect. Like we got pictures of his like little feet and like uh his hands. Like at one point it looked like he was like kind of like waving, and he always did this thing where he had like his hand like over his head. Because she'd be like, well, I can't get a profile picture right now because again he's got his hand over his head.
He's thinking
um
about stuff.
yeah. But that was cool to see 3D photos then, because we had seen 3D photos at the 16 weeks and now it was 20 weeks. So it's amazing like how quick they like grow.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I think he was weighing about like a pound or so at my 20 week. And they check the heart, they like everything. It was just so fascinating uh to watch all of it, and I was definitely feeling him a lot more at that time. So that was fun too. Like, he would like kick the like wand thing or whatever. And
Yeah.
but when they check your cervix at that point, so she said she was having trouble uh seeing my cervix or something. So she was like, I'm just gonna go get the doctor. And as soon as she like walked out of the room, I like looked at Matt and I was like, something's wrong. I was like, they've never gotten the doctor before. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, they usually just go sign off the scans or whatever, right?
yeah. So I'm already crying at that point, of course. Like, and the doctor came in and they had to do like another scan, but then they had to do like an internal scan. And this doctor was like pushing on my stomach, like so hard to like, it was so painful to try and, I guess, get a better view of my cervix.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't answering any questions. He just kept telling us, like, I'll answer your questions. Like, because, we know something's wrong at this point. Like,
Yeah.
we get through that. And then he brings up the pictures because, it's usually like the screen was in front of us for us to see. And he's like, well, this is your cervix. Uh, it's measuring short. And then he's like, and you see like this line, like it should be completely closed, but you have like, it was just slightly opening. So I literally I at that point was just like, well, what does that mean? Like, what is happening? Like, what's happening? And he's like, well, get dressed. Like, we're gonna go into our office. So of course, like I'm bawling my my eyes out at that point, like petrified of like what he was going to say. But when we spoke with him, he said that it can happen to women where, their cervix might start opening too soon. And there's studies that like progesterone could help it. So he said that he would want me to start taking the progesterone, and he said that he's seen people have this and then they go full term and they're completely fine. Then there's the people who they might have to put a stitch in to, keep your cervix shut. All these like scary other options that he shared, and uh he's like, just do the progesterone for a week and then come back. And that's what we did. Like, I did the progesterone for a week, and then when I went back for that, like after that, my cervix had started to open more. So at this point, they again said, you don't have to do anything. Like, you could just see how it goes, but it's not good that it had started to open more in just a week, even like with the progesterone to try and help it. Or they could put a stitch in. It's called like a cerclage, where they can sew it shut. And they said that 80% of women, or whatever the percentage was, is that they get the stitch and then they make it full term and everything is fine. So I was like, let's just do it. Like, I didn't, or like Matt and I, like, didn't want to take the chance that, something could go wrong and my water could break or he could come too soon and whatnot. So I did that at 21 weeks. And I was going out of work because my job is very physical. So my doctors wanted me not on bed rest, but I couldn't be bending down and like picking up kids and that kind of stuff. So they told me they wanted me to be out of work until I turned like 28 weeks or something like that.
Okay.
And as long as everything looked okay, then I could return back to work. So that's what I did right after the stitch was put in. Then it was literally, I'm trying to think, February 1st is when I had the stitch put in. And then I think it might have been February 5th or so, I was at home and my brother had just visited me. And I was going to bed and I laid down and I was like, oh, like, I don't know. I just had like the weird feeling. And I was like, did I just like pee myself?
Oh.
Like, I hear sometimes when you're pregnant, you might pee yourself sometimes.
It happens.
Like, yeah, I was like, I don't know what's normal or not. Like, so I got up and I went to the bathroom and I just, something wasn't right, and I could feel like I felt, you know what I mean? Like, like you feel it, like when something is not right. But honestly, I just decided to be like, okay, maybe I just peed myself, and I like cleaned up, and then I like went back to bed, and I went to go lay down. And as soon as I like went to go lay down again, like more came out. And I like went to the bathroom again and I like sat there for like, it was probably like 5 minutes, and I was just sitting there and I'm just like, this can't be my water. Like, this can't be my water. This can't be my water. Like, no, this can't be it. Like, I was almost like in denial for a little bit. Like, and then, I just kind of felt like a little more like slowly like coming out, and I went into panic mode, and I feel like it's like kind of a blur. Like after that, like I kind of like I'm pretty sure I probably screamed at Matt. Like, I was like, something is really wrong. Like, my water just broke. My water's had to have just broke. And like, he's like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm explaining it to him. I was like, we need to go to the hospital. Like, we need to go to the hospital right now. Like, this second. And then like, Matt's running around like a madman, like, trying to like get things together. And I can just remember like standing there. I couldn't move. Like I felt paralyzed, and it was so scary. Like I just was just like I, I feel like I can just remember saying like, this can't be happening. This isn't happening. This isn't what it is. Like it was just horrible. And of course the hospital is an hour away. So I don't even know what Matt grabbed. I don't even think I grabbed anything. I think I barely even like got myself like in the car. Like I don't even know how I did that. But I got to the car, and again, like I cried the entire way to the hospital, and we were silent. Like I don't even think we had the radio on. And Matt kept like looking at me, but I don't think we knew what to say to each other like in that moment, because like we were so scared of like what was happening. And I just it was like the longest hour like to get there. But I had called my OB, and the hospital knew like we were coming, and so they were ready for like when we got there, and they got us into like the room. They they put like the monitor on, and they found his heartbeat pretty quickly. So, of course that is a relief right there, like okay, like he's alive. It took forever because it was so late at night for one of the doctors to come in, and they do like a swab or whatever, and if it turns blue, then that means like it's your fluid, like your amniotic fluid. And I can just remember her looking at me, and she was just like, I'm so sorry, but your water has broken. Like this is your water. And I said a couple of curse words actually. Like I can remember, like I just like Matt said that all I did was like put my hand like over my head, and I just like kept like saying the F word like over and over and over. Like I just like I didn't know what to say. I'm like, how? Like, why? Why is this happening? Like, I just had the stitch put in. Like, why is this happening? And it was too late for, like, there was no doctor, I guess, there, like, to talk to us. Um, so they moved us to, like, the labor and delivery section. And they explained that like two things could happen. Like they needed to monitor me for an infection, and they needed to keep like a contraction monitor on. And they said to me, they're like, let us know if you start to feel like contractions. And I was like, I don't know what contractions feel like. I was like, I've never done this. Like, I don't know. And all anybody ever kept saying was like, you'll know. And I'm like, okay. Like, it was just a very, I don't even think we slept that night. Like, it was just, because at that point, they didn't even like do an ultrasound. It was just like they monitored his heartbeat, and they kept the contraction monitor on my stomach, which one of the nurses came in, and they were like, why is your contraction monitor up there? And I'm like, I don't know. They're like, you're so it needs to be like whatever. It needed to be lower because of like how far along we were. And she even said, like, she made a comment like, oh, the other nurse probably just doesn't know because this doesn't usually happen. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Okay, like this doesn't normally happen. Like I don't like. And my parents actually showed up in the middle of the night, like to the hospital with us, and they spent some time with us. And then we have 2 dogs, so, you know, Matt had to go home to, like, take care of the dogs, and then we realized that the dogs would probably stay with my parents because we knew we were gonna be in the hospital for a little while. And we had many tough conversations with so many doctors, like maternal fetal medicine, NICU doctors, uh, the OB, like it was so overwhelming, like the amount of information that they gave us, because when they did eventually do an ultrasound, like he had no fluid, like there was just nothing left really. And of course, they have to tell you all the scary parts, like 21 weeks is not viable for a pregnancy, so they gave us the option to terminate the pregnancy. They told us we could let Mother Nature take its course. We could, like, those were really 2 only options, either terminate or wait and see. So when the NICU doctor came, I felt like that was the hardest part because I just wanted to know if he was like in pain, like I'm like, he doesn't have fluid. Like, what does this mean? Like, and they just explained that they need the fluid in order to, you know, breathe. Like they need to be able to like drink it to then be able to like let it out, and it rotates. But when a baby doesn't have fluid to do that, then issues with the lungs develop, or if it's so tight, they can have like clubfoot, or like there could be deformities because if he's in one position and he can't move around, like all of these things. But his heartbeat was strong. And when we were there, that had been the most I had ever felt him like move. And Matt and I were like, we can't end this. Like, I was like, I can't, I feel him. Like, I'm feeling him inside of me. And I can't, like, let go. Like, I can't just be like, sure, let's just end it right now. Like, and the doctors even said to us, they were like, if you were 1 week ahead, we would be like, hang in there. If you were 1 week before this, we would be like, there's no hope. Like, you need to end it. But because we were like 21 weeks, like in that weird spot, like they were like, it could go either way. So there's no right or wrong answer. So to me, I was like, as long as he's not in pain and he's not in distress, like we wanted to let nature take its course. Like to us, we had to do everything we possibly could in order to, try and save him and keep him with us. So, um, we were in the hospital for 4 days at that point, and they were looking for infection, and then they were looking for if I would be, like, to go into labor. I wasn't gonna start dilating because I had the stitch, so we stayed, and we made it those 4 days, because they say after those 4 days, if you've made it that far, you know, you're more likely to go at least another week, like, before. So, they wouldn't keep us there or see us again until 24 weeks. So, they were like, "Go home and wait." Like, they wanted me to take my temperature twice a day to make sure I didn't have a fever. If I started to have contractions, if I started, like, bleeding or you know what I mean? Like, I just had to, like, watch out for, like, all those things. So, my parents only lived 20 minutes from the hospital as opposed to, like, an hour for us. So, to us, it made sense to stay with my parents for that time being, just in case, like, because then we would be, like, closer to the hospital, and that's what we did, and my sister gave up her room, and so I, like, had a bed, and I didn't have to, like, sleep on the couch, and my sister and I slept to get like, in the same bed the first night, and then she's like, "I can't sleep with you," and I was like, "What do you mean you can't sleep? I didn't take up too much room, like, what are you talking about?" We always shared a bed, like, she's like it kinda made me sad because she was like, "I'm scared that I'm going to hurt you," like, in the middle of the night, like, say she, like, moved her arm or she kicked me or, like, like, she was scared that she was going to, like, hurt Owen or something, like so she slept, like, on the couch for the amount of time that, like, I was, like, at my parents' house, and in between this time, Matt struggled with going to work because he didn't wanna miss a second, like, he always takes care of me in any situation. Like, he literally is, like, the best husband in the entire world. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, but he was so on top of everything, like, because they didn't want me, like, walking around too much. Like, he was working nights at that time, so he tried working for a little while, like, working nights and then coming home and taking care of me, but I was like, "You can't do that, like, you have to go to bed, like, you go to sleep, like, you have to," and he was really struggling. So we looked into it, and he applied for, like, the Family Leave Act or whatever it is, like, if you have to
Mhm.
take care of somebody. So he applied for that and he like just kind of stopped going to work and he was just starting to make a name for himself too at this company that he was with and he loved it like that was like his dream job and he was finally moving up and like meeting all these people that were like the higher ups and at first, I was, like, mad. I was like, "Go to work, like, you have to do this," like but then I was beyond thankful that he stayed with me because I needed him to, like, ground me almost. Uh, I was, like, petrified of, like, every move, Like, it was just a blessing because I got to have more time, like, with Owen, and at those stages, I was feeling him, like, a lot more, and I learned, like, that he loved avocados because every time I would, like, eat an avocado and he would, like, dance around or whatever. So, I mean, I guess he could have hated it too, but
He liked avocados.
I'm gonna go if he liked it. But there was the one night too that Matt and I were laying in bed and I was like, "Oh, he's moving around a lot." And that was like one of the first times that Matt was able to like, kind of feel him like give a little kick and that was we both cried because it's like we've waited for that moment for years and it was just so hard to like comprehend like I just kept thinking like we've got like we've gone through so much to like get to this point like why is it's being so difficult to like go through it but as soon as we got to like 23 weeks and 4 days, I think it was, the high risk doctor was like, "Hey, kid, like you made it this far. Like this is a miracle alone, like that you've done this." So they put me in the hospital, and we knew walking in that that was going to be our home until Owen was born. So in our heads, we were like, this is going to be home. Like we need to pretend we want to be here for a while. Obviously nobody wants to be in the hospital for a while, but we wanted to be there for a while. So, you know, my friends and family were so amazing. They all sent cards and I can't even tell you how many coloring books I got or, like, we pretty much, like, decorated the whole room, like, the nurses would walk in and be like, "Is this your house?" Or, like, yeah, like, we wanted to make it feel homey, like, I had my own pillow, like, we made it as homey as possible, um, just because we wanted to keep, like, that positive, like, we're
Mhm.
trying to be as positive as possible at that point, and a lot of the doctors were shocked that we even made it from 21 weeks of my water breaking to 24 weeks, um, so every day said after that was like a blessing because it doesn't usually happen that way, um,
And you knew
he
that did you guys know that you were gonna be admitted into the hospital if you made it to 24 weeks and just monitor you and maybe even if needed, they would induce you, or what was the plan from there?
Us signing ourselves into the hospital at 24 weeks was us saying to the doctors that we wanna take every life-saving measure possible to save Owen. So, that meant I was not going to be able to do a natural delivery, like, I would have to have a C-section no matter what, because if I started having contractions I wouldn't have time to go through labor because he would have to come out quick if we wanted to save him. Um, and if I got an infection, then it would be an emergency C-section and they would take him out as quick as possible and they would perform life-saving measures to like try and save him at that point. So that's what we were signing up for. Like when we went back in at 24 weeks, doctors, there were more options. Like they still said that we could terminate or at any point, or some people just waited at home until something happened. But at the hospital, they gave me like steroid shots. They had me on really high doses of antibiotics. They monitored Owen twice a day for at least an hour to make sure like his heart rate was okay and that he wasn't in any distress. And the only time that I wouldn't have a say about anything would be if I had an infection and if he was showing any signs of distress. And that would be the time when they would have to take him out. So for the first week, like first couple of days, I couldn't even leave my room. Like couldn't leave the bed. Couldn't They didn't want me to move at all. And like the first week passed, like being in the same room and in the same bed for like so long is like you go crazy. Like, like it's like what do you there's only so much you can do and then it's like you just overthink and I did a lot of coloring. That is definitely for sure. And my friends were amazing because a lot of people came to visit me, like all my coworkers came. My boss came and she visited me, like family came, like they kept me busy. And the people knew that I had 2 dogs and I missed them terribly. And so the liaison person, made it a point that if there was ever a service dog in the hospital, like, they made, like, a special trip to, like, come and see me.
That is
So,
awesome. That is awesome.
yeah, it was very sweet. So then I gradually was, like, graduated to being able to be wheeled around the maternity ward. Like, I couldn't leave the maternity ward, but I could be wheeled around, you know, that area. But that didn't last very long because that's a very hard place to be in when you're going through something like that because everybody has their babies and they're all happy and like it was really rough. So I spent a lot of time in one in one room for a while. But the doctors every day were like, "This is great. You're doing great." Like he is a feisty one. Like despite not having a lot of room, he's doing those flips and he was running away from them every time they had to put the monitor on him. Like I can remember like the one time the nurse it took her like 20 minutes to finally get him to like stay in one spot and then she walked out and I have it on video actually like he kicked it and it literally like fell down my stomach like the
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 little
monitor.
monitor.
Yeah, like he hit it so hard that
That is awesome.
the monitor just slid down my stomach. Um yeah, so I mean there were some like good times, like that and Matt got to see him, you know, how, like, sometimes if they're, like, in one spot, like, your stomach will get hard on, like, that one area, and I can remember for the first couple of times, I was like, "Something's wrong, like, why is my stomach bigger on this like, this side, and it's hard, and it's like" and then the nurse was like, nope, he's just chilling up there right now," like so I mean, that was amusing to deal with, and I'm just very glad that I got to, like, feel those movements and,
Yeah.
March 10th, I woke up and I knew something was wrong. Like, I didn't feel good, and I knew I had a fever. Like, when you just, like the aches and I just really didn't feel well. And they came in and I was like, I don't feel good. Like something is wrong. And they had said that I had a fever. So they automatically hooked me up, like, to the monitor for Owen. And his heart rate was like in the 180s and like consistently in the 180s. And that's like really high. And it shouldn't, be like that. And normally I would have felt him moving around like a lot. And I like kept saying to them, I'm like, I don't feel him. Like they're like, okay, well, like his heart, like he's alive, like he's in there. And it all like it happened so quickly. Like I didn't feel well. They noticed that his heart rate was too high. My OB came in and was like, all I can remember is like her saying, like, okay, Lorianne, it looks like today's the day. Like, it's a good day to have a baby boy. Like, let's get going. Um, it seems like you have an infection, so he has to come out now. And I was petrified. Like I couldn't even like hold myself together like anymore after that. And in the C-section, they were going to like allow Matt to like come in because I was going to be awake. But as soon as I like got into the OR, they had found out that they had just given me my heparin shot, I think it is, for blood clots. And they were like, you could bleed out if we keep you awake. Or if you're like, we decided that it would be a better option for me to be put out for the C-section. Honestly, I wouldn't doubt it if they like just said that because I was freaking out. Like I couldn't calm down. Like I suffer from like anxiety normally and I was just like on a whole new level of like freaking out. And because I just kept saying like but he's only 26 weeks, like he's only 26 weeks, like, and it just happened so quick. And there's a whole team of people rushing around you. And it was so overwhelming, like the amount of people. And they're like prepping you for a C-section, and the doctor's telling me about like knocking me out, and then they're telling me Matt can't come in. And like they actually let Matt in for like a second just to like wish me luck, and then he had to leave. And I literally like it's all a blur, but I was just petrified. And I just remember all of a sudden I felt someone like grab my hand, and I was like, "What?" I like looked over, and I guess it was like a doula or something like that. I'm not 100% sure if that's what she was, but she just like leaned in next to me and was just like, "Lorianne, you're going to be okay. We're going to take care of your baby." Like, and she was just so calm and like soothing. And like I wish I like knew who she was, like so I could thank her. You know what I mean? Like she
Yeah.
totally like helped me in that moment. Like just holding my hand in that moment was like just like something I needed. And then, I was put out, and then I woke up and in recovery, and I I just felt so empty. Like I didn't feel right. Like just the day before, I was feeling him, and then he's not there anymore. And you think you have so much more time, like, and my oxygen levels kept getting all messed up. So I had to be in recovery for a little bit longer. And Matt came down and he showed me a picture of Owen, from, he told me he came out and he wasn't breathing. So they did have to intubate him. And so they did that. They intubated him, and Matt, I'm sorry, this is where I'm gonna get a little emotional, but, um, Matt said he opened his eyes and was, looking at him, and, you know, you don't realize how tiny, you know, a baby, a 2-pound baby is, like, and Matt's I've never felt so much love. He and it was in that moment I was like, well, when am I gonna see him? I just wanted to see him. Um, Obviously I was very glad that Matt was able to, show me some pictures. And he had said that the doctor said that he was doing the best he could, in that moment. That, he needed full support to breathe, but everything else was stable and that he was doing well. So that was a breath of fresh air. We already knew that it was going to be a long road, after he was born. And the doctors weren't going to be able to tell us how developed his lungs were until after he was born. So after Matt showed me the pictures, he's like, do you care if I go back? And I was like, I want you to go back. Go be with him. I'm fine. My mom was there, and so my mom sat with me. And then Matt got to go back upstairs and spend some time with him. And I finally got back to my room, which is, they still do it in the labor and delivery section, of course. Even though they put that leaf or whatever on the door with the teardrop.
Yeah.
And I was in there, and then they had told me that it wasn't going to be until later that night, that because he was born at 12:06 p.m. So they said that I wasn't going to be able to see him until at least later that night, because I had to relax and recoup from the C-section, and my oxygen was still a little off, and they had brought in a breast pump because I did say that I wanted to uh breastfeed, so they wanted me to start doing that right away. The nurses literally explain I've never used a breast pump before. So I'm like, she's like, okay, here it is. And I'm like, nope.
I need an instruction manual.
I
Thank you.
I no idea what to do what to do with that thing. So she was explaining it to me, and as she's explaining it to me, I'm I got a text from Matt, and he said something isn't right. There's a lot of doctors in here right now, and there's a lot of beeping. And I'm like, they're hooked up to so many different things when they're in the NICU. And I was like, okay, like what's wrong? And like he said something about his blood pressure kept dropping and his heart rate kept dropping, but they were giving him medicine for it. And I'm not even gonna lie, like when he said that, my thought was like, okay, we knew this was gonna be a long road, right? That was expected. We knew things could happen, that things could go wrong, but it never crossed my mind, like, that he would, like, pass away. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, we made it. We made it to 26 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, he came out. He was doing so well. Like, we're gonna get through this. Like, we did it. Like, you know what I just felt so sure for some reason. Like, I don't know if it was just because, like, I was like, this has to be okay. Like, this just has to be okay. And that eventually came back down to see me. And, we talked for a little while. And then Matt asked my dad to, like, step outside. And I found this out, like, later. But apparently in the parking lot, like, they were talking. And Matt's like, it's not, it's not good. Like, he said there's so many doctors in there and they are trying everything that they can, but it's not good. Like, and my dad was just like, okay, like, let's hope and wait and see. And Matt didn't tell me that yet because he didn't. I mean, who knows? I probably would have like ripped out everything possible and like tried to like get to him. Like, I don't know what I would have done, but Matt came back and he hung out with me because he said they were busy, like, upstairs. And then all of a sudden, the NICU doctor came in and he had like 5 nurses with him or something. And he said that we need to talk and asked if we wanted my parents in there or not. And we asked my parents to like step outside for the talk, and they did. And I knew, you know, when he came back down, like, why would he be there? You know what I mean? Like, what would be the reasoning for him to be there at that point? And the NICU doctor was amazing. It's like he took my hand, like, he was so genuine and caring. And, like, he did. He, like, took my hand and he explained what was happening about, like, his heart rate and his breathing and the blood pressure and explained it all. And I, like, was like, so he's dying. And the doctor was like, yes, like, that is what he's telling us because we could try, like, they tried every medicine possible to, like, stabilize, I guess, him, but it just none of it worked, and they just, like, came to the conclusion that, like, his lungs just couldn't develop enough, like, at that stage. So, he basically said, "We wanna get you upstairs now, so you can meet your son, and you can hold him, and meet him before he passes away. So I'm like, let's go. Like, but it took all those nurses and doctors and to try and get me up because like I was probably dead weight, to be completely honest. Like I was just like I didn't know what to do. Like, and I was in so much pain from just having a C-section. Like I shouldn't have even been sitting up like that yet. And I had to get from the bed to like a wheelchair, and they did it pretty quickly. Like we did it, and I can remember like going out of the room, and because we had asked my parents to leave, and I like looked to like the left when we came out of the room, and my parents were like at the end of the hall. And that was so I could see like a nurse like holding them back a little bit. Like because I was like crying and they were like rushing us like upstairs. So that was very traumatizing for me to like see my parents like that. And it's definitely still something that I like still struggle with daily. But uh we got up to the NICU, and uh I heard them say like give him a dose of fentanyl or whatever it was. I guess so like he wouldn't be in any pain or uh anything. I guess that's like what helps them pass. Like you know what I mean? Like I don't know. I guess that's just but before they did that, we got to hold him, and like he opened his eyes and was like looking at us. And literally the first thing I said to Matt was like, because I'm like holding him and I'm like, he is perfect. Like that's all I could think. Like he's beautiful. Like he's so perfect. And it was just like very hard. And we are not religious at all, really. And we had gotten into a couple of arguments, like arguments, discussions about if we should baptize him or not. And we never came to a final conclusion. But when the NICU doctor asked us, like, do you guys want to baptize him before he passes away? And we were like, yes. Like, we're just like, there's no right or wrong answer at this point. Like, if 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 it's gonna help him, then it's gonna help him. If it's not, then it's not. Like, just do it. Like, like at that point, that's like kind of how we felt. So we were like, yes. And I don't know how, but the NICU doctor, I guess, is qualified to do that. But he did it for us. So it's not even like we had to wait for the priest or whatnot to come. Um, so he did that. And then again, they eventually just took out like his like he was intubated, so they just like pulled out his tube, and we just like we just held him and told him how much like we loved him, and you know, it's so weird to think about it. Like at first I was so afraid to touch him because the NICU doctor at one point had told us that their skin can be so sensitive, like at such a young age. So I was like afraid. And I was like kind of like, because he was wrapped in a blanket. So I was like kind of rubbing the blanket a little bit. And the doctor was like, you can touch him. Like, you're not going to hurt him. Like, he's your baby. Like, you can touch him. And I was like, great. Like, after that, it was like, okay, like, I'm not going to hurt him. Like, so, you know, I got to, like, basically just hold him until he passed away. I'm just so glad that he was able to, like, I'm sure babies at that age can't see much, but you know what I mean? Like, he had his eyes open and he was, like, looking at us, and I'm sure he knew our voices. Like, he, all he felt right when he was passing was love, and so much love. And I'm very grateful for that. And, the doctor did confirm eventually, like, his heart had stopped. So it took Matt actually a little bit of time to hold him. And he kept saying no, like he didn't want to at first. And I was like, you need to hold your son. Like, I know it's upsetting and I know it's hard, but you need to do this. And he's so glad that I, like, pushed him to, like, hold him. And it was just me and Matt for a little while. And then they asked if I wanted my parents to come up because they were there. And I said yes, like to let them come up and meet Owen. And at that point, he had passed, but they came upstairs, and the look on my dad's face, like, when he came in, my dad is not a crier at all. And he was crying. And I, like, it was just so hard to see them upset because obviously I knew how much they wanted to be grandparents and how much they loved him already and how much, like, excitement they had for him, and it was gone now. But they got to hold him and meet him, and I am grateful for that, and so are they. Like, they are very glad that, they got to spend some time with him and to see him, and then they let me, like, wash him up. I got to change his diaper. I got to, help, like, they were because, they do some photos and everything like that. So I was going to stay for the photos, which I didn't feel like we were in that room for a long time, but timing is so blurry in that instance. Like, I thought we weren't in there very long, but apparently we were there for, like, hours. And then my, like, IVs were, like, in the wrong place, so, like, when my arms were bent, like, I wasn't getting, like, my meds, and you could tell I was, like, going pale, and, like, I was dizzy, and, like, they were like, "Okay, I think it's time for you to, you have to go and rest now. And that was really hard to have to, leave him. And I see these stories of, how people, got to spend, a night or whatever it is, with their children, and I'm like, I wish I knew something like that. I didn't even know, that was an option. You know what I mean? I didn't know. Maybe the hospital I was at didn't do that, or maybe they didn't have, a cuddle cot or something like that, but it was once we left, then that was it. That was the last time that I got to see him, and obviously no time is ever enough in a situation like that, and I am grateful for the time that I did get with him, and I just wish it was, more, but I guess, I feel again, it probably never would have been enough, whether it was 3 hours or 24 hours,
Yeah.
I don't think it would have ever been enough. But I, had to go back downstairs, and then that was pretty much it. That was the last time I saw him, and then I was in the hospital for 2 more days, and then they sent me home. And the world was ending because of COVID, all at the same exact time. And I mean, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
At first, I feel like we were almost happy, not happy about COVID, obviously, but happy in the sense that Matt and I were kind of left alone, because it's we had that time to lean on each other and grieve together and heal together. But then at the same time, it was I wish I could have had family there more often.
Yeah.
But because of COVID, and it was hard, nobody knew anything really by that point about COVID. So it was quarantine, and yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much, we did have him cremated, which I am very glad we did that, because now we have him with us every day. I have a necklace, and his ashes are in it, and which is with me every day. And I mean, I got a tattoo with his name and his footprints and stuff like that on it. And I actually had a jeweler take his handprint and footprint. And they literally took these are his actual size and outline
Oh my
of
goodness.
his hand and footprint.
Those are so sweet.
Yeah. So I have those every day, with me too. So
Did you guys have a memorial service or anything? I know it was right in the height of the close down of because of COVID-19. So
I mean, we did a little thing with our immediate family. Um, Otherwise we couldn't,
yeah.
because of COVID. There really wasn't an option to do that. I mean, his first birthday was just on March 10th, and we did have a little get together with my family and my husband's family, and we had a little cake and everything like that, and that was nice.
Yeah.
But
That's always nice.
yeah.
Lorianne, thank you so much for telling Owen's story. Is there anything else that you want to remember or that you'd like to share about that entire experience?
I am just very grateful for the time that I did get with him, including when he was growing inside of me. Like, that was a great experience. And I am so grateful that I got to see him and hold him. So he, like, felt the love and knew the love. And I say he got to see us. Like, he opened his eyes. So, like, I'm so glad that he, like, got to see us, like, as he was passing. Like, that means so much to me that I was able to do that.
Thank you so much, Lorianne. That was such a beautiful story, and I'm glad you were able to share Owen with us today.
Yes, thank you.